Trump has announced that the US military will not allow transgender individuals to serve in the armed forces in any capacity.
Earlier this week, of course, President Trump tweeted that transgender troops will no longer be allowed to serve in the military in any capacity.
Trump's announcement this morning on Twitter did not say what would happen to transgender people already in the military. The president tweeted that after consulting with generals and military experts, the government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military.
I mean, yesterday, after it came out, when reporters asked, what does it mean? The Pentagon said what?
The Pentagon just referred all questions to the White House. It was clear that they had no guidance, that they had nothing to roll out, which obviously puts all of these troops out of the middle who are transgender, who were encouraged to come out by the military last year, in a really bad position. And they just said that they're going to be working on this guidance closely with the White House, and that will let us know in the near future. But it's very unusual for the Pentagon to not have anything to roll out when something happens like this. I mean, your policy change that affect troops, some of which are currently employed.
So when the White House says this is about unit cohesion and military readiness, does that appear to be true?
Well, the Pentagon commissioned a report last year from the Rand Corporation to basically look at every data point to figure out how true. The report concluded that there would be almost no impact on military readiness. That would be very cheap, and that overall it really didn't make a difference, and that's why the Pentagon rolled out this policy last June under the Obama administration to allow them to fully serve. And so I spoke to the report writer that spoke to the Pentagon official said that doesn't have to change. So, and like I said, the military, the service chief were caught as well. So it's not quite clear why the blanket ban, and according to the President's tweet, it helped interpret to mean that people who are currently serving would be discharged. So, which would be very unusual as well. So it seems that there's no data since the Pentagon made last decision.
Does a tweet from the Commander-in-Chief constitute an order, Vera?
Well, nobody knows. This goes out to, this is all uncharted territory from what I can tell. The official definitely thought it was, they didn't know what to do with it because the White House also was providing any guidance. There was no company statement, there was a policy. And so they're not going to start taking people out of the military based on this tweet, but now they're going to have to work, the Defense Department and the White House are going to have to work together and come up with some kind of policy. And like I said, this was a discussion. The Pentagon was looking into how to encourage transgender service members, and lawmakers are also looking at funding for medical care for transgender members. But nobody was really questioning the fact that now they're serving, and that it was never a discussion to come out.
1.3 million active duty members of the military. I mean, I've seen numbers everywhere from 1,500 to 11,000 to 15,000 active troops who may be transgender. Why this ban from the president, the commander-in-chief, so suddenly? What's the thinking behind where this came from? It seemed out of the blue from outside.
It seems like it was being pressured by several people, the vice president, several conservative lawmakers. There was an amendment, like I said, the annual defense bill that was trying to launch funds for medical care for people in the military who were transitioning. But what was shocking and what was sudden was that nobody was asking for him to actually ban all transgender service members in the military and tweet them in any capacity. So there's really little ambiguity to what that means. And it's not clear the White House has not answered questions. Like I said, the Pentagon is just referring us still to the White House. But it seems like he just went far beyond what either lawmakers or military officials were asking him to do. He despite the fact that he's consulted with his military general.
Is this him trying to rally support for the rest of his agenda in Congress? You've got some very conservative members of Congress who might be applauding this, might have wanted it.
That could be, they obviously play very well in certain sectors, but like I said, lawmakers themselves said they were not asking for this. You had John McCain, you had a lot of Republican lawmakers come out and criticize this because at the end of the day, many of whom are deployed in Afghanistan and other war zones are being told that they can't serve anymore, and they're able to sit. And also, it is an economic argument that the president said that there's tremendous medical costs associated with this. Very, very expensive to discharge training troops as well. And so it seems, even though it obviously plays well in certain sectors, very few people are supportive of this, and I think it's also noteworthy that no one, including Mattis, including any of his military generals, have come out and supported this as well.
I saw a number, I guess, out of that same Rand study saying that costs for dealing with transgender military members might rise between $2 and $8.5 million a year. That's 0.04% of the Pentagon, the massive Pentagon budget. It doesn't seem like so tremendous, but there's the decision. Is there a timetable now for how the Pentagon digests this and figures out what the White House means?
Well, that's what we're hoping. The other interesting thing is that, Jim Mattis was the secretary was on vacation. We are reporters were looking for answers. The military was looking for answers, and so they're just going to have to sit down and decide how this actually works. I mean, you discharge people. When each service member undergoes home health, it costs $52,000 to discharge and replace each service member. So it's a matter of $8 million related to medical costs. And according to the Rand study, it would be only about 30 to 130 service members at most undergoing any kind of medical treatment per year.
Very well out of time, but we appreciate your reporting. The President, Commander-in-Chief, giving orders by tweet now.
Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you, he tweeted in 3 separate tweets. Trump's announcement appeared to have even shocked the Pentagon, which has directed all questions about the order to the White House. The New York Times reports Defense Secretary James Mattis learned of Trump's plans on Tuesday.
For them to lose their career, to lose their family, to lose their support system, and to lose their entire world, I mean, that's just That's unthinkable to me.
Also,
very frightened about what the future holds for you when your commander-in-chief tweets a message like this, basically dismissing your service.
Several members of Congress who served in the military are also criticizing the ban.
And the fact that we have politicians who never served sticking their noses in our units where they don't belong, telling us how that the military should be run is just, it's beyond decency. It's just completely un-American.
Charles, you describe yourself as genderqueer yourself. You have 6 years in the military. What does that mean?
I think that people understand the movement, and I think people not only see the movement, but especially young people. People who don't know. It used to be, oh my God, they're up there undressed and everything, and oh, it's obscene. We don't hear that so much anymore, because everybody's there. And that's one of the most, perhaps, complete kind of groupings, where people are there to enjoy, to protest, and to show themselves at the same time. The Gay Officers Action League.
Well, under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, we had a lot of bisexual or gay and lesbian service members who were kicked out with absolutely no evidence that they'd engaged in any sort of homosexual conduct. So even genderqueer folks are, I would say, under the gun right now in terms of looking at their career and the military deciding whether or not they're worthy to serve, which is completely ludicrous to me and to so many of us who serve with folks who fall on the spectrum.
So Charles, you mentioned Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Of course, there was the change in policy under the Obama administration. From where you sit, Charles Clymer, what's going on here politically with the ability of LGBT people to serve?
Just because your limited view is that everyone's there to serve you and that you're the only person in the world, it doesn't work that way.
But many questions remain unanswered as to what will happen to the estimated 15,000 trans service members currently in the military. This is a reporter questioning White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders during a news conference on Wednesday.
What happens to transgender service members now? Are they immediately thrown out of the military?
We are watching a madman in office unilaterally making decisions without the military's input. I think James Mattis, I think that most of our senior military leadership, not to mention the hundreds of thousands of officers who overlook everyone in the military, they believe in one standard, and either you meet that standard or you don't. And whether you're gay or straight or transgender or cisgender, that has nothing to do with it. We're looking at not a man trying to cut down costs, but this is about fear and loathing of transgender Americans.
According to the Trans Military Project, some 15,500 transgender individuals currently serve in the U.S. military. Transgender people are twice as likely to serve than cisgender people, and there's no other known organization that employs more transgender people than the U.S. military.
This exists, that you can have a sex assigned at birth, and that cannot be who you actually really are internally and how you identify in terms of your gender, and that can change. And that is just another form of human expression. So we're right in the middle right now of that really important conversation of people becoming familiar with the existence of transgender people. And I will say,
religion has been used as a rationale for many issues over the years, including some that people have changed their mind on.
But just like we made progress around how people felt about quote, homosexuality generally or same-sex relationships, familiarity, knowing someone who is transgender, even someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who has political views that even I would disagree with, at least what Caitlyn Jenner provides and other transgender individuals that people know is the idea that this conversation around the military actually provides an excellent portal for people to begin thinking about who are transgender people, do they know anyone who's transgender, educating themselves about transgender identity, and coming to a greater level of comfort.
That's all this is.
Staff Sergeant Patricia King, have you been willing to put your life on the line and die for this country?
Well, of course I've been willing to do my job. That's what raising your right hand and serving in the army means.
And how do you feel about it?
Well, I will tell you that I have been so proud to have the opportunity to serve my country, and I've been honored to be able to serve openly for the last 2 years. So certainly I'm hopeful that I will have the opportunity to continue to serve. This is where I love to be.
Patricia King, the Pentagon has made gender reassignment a covered health benefit that was ordered by the Obama administration. What do your colleagues, your friends who are part of your transgender service nonprofit that you're part of, say about that benefit and the prospect of losing it?
Well, I think it's important to remember that both RAND Corp as well as the New England Journal of Medicine did independent studies on the cost. And aside from that, the DoD embarked on a 1-year study to determine what the cost would be. And all three, as well as the 18 partner nations with open trans service, have all determined that the cost is nominal and that it is worth the benefit of retaining the best and brightest service members in our military.
So what exactly does this mean? I mean, if he is banning all service members who are trans, are they going to bases all over the world, not to mention bases here like yours, Fort Lewis, and kick you out?
You know, I couldn't speak to what's going to happen next. What I know is that I've been serving for 18 years now. I've served honorably and proudly, and it's my intention to continue to serve, so it's my goal to make it so that I can do that.
Now, the Pentagon has made gender reassignment a covered health benefit, as ordered by the Obama administration. What would it mean to transgender service members to lose this benefit?
Well, I don't think that healthcare should be considered a benefit, first of all. We have to remember that what the previous Secretary of Defense said was that all medically necessary care will be covered. And it's hard to consider something that's medically necessary a benefit. Most of us who serve, the most important thing to us is the ability to continue serving our country. So while my healthcare is concerned, my major concern right now is that I've been serving this country for almost 2 decades. I love my country, and I just want to be able to continue to serve.
Can you talk about why you joined the military?
Initially, I joined out of high school, and it was very much a soul-searching opportunity. I came into the military in an effort to figure out who I was and where my place in the world was. What I immediately found out is just how much I love the military. I love the camaraderie and the opportunity to make a difference, and that's what's kept me here for 18 years.
So tell us about what happened when you came out 2 years ago. What was the reaction like, and how difficult was that decision to change your gender?
Well, that decision was a lifetime in the making for me. I originally knew that I was transgender as a youth and spent 20 years wrestling with the decision to come out and live an authentic life. And I was so thankful when I finally did make that decision. It doesn't matter who you are. What matters is whether or not you can do your job.
A study by the RAND Corporation estimates gender reassignment treatments would cost the military...
So defense spending overall, this appropriations budget kind of butted up against this more specific issue of spending federal dollars on gender reassignment surgeries for transgender service members.
That's exactly right. And it just so happened that they found kind of a sympathetic audience in President Trump, who had had these meetings several months ago with unknown military leaders, and happened to be a friendly audience for conservatives in Congress who were vehemently opposed to government funds going to gender reassignment surgeries. And in fact, you know, it's notable, he went much farther than they had asked. They were opposed simply to government funds going to these medical costs, and he banned outright transgender military service, which, as far as we know, nobody was asking for.
Your response to this, Staff Sergeant King?
Soldiering is one of the greatest honors that anybody in this country can have. And I will tell you that RAND Corporation did an exhaustive study, the New England Journal of Medicine did their own independent study, and then the Department of Defense did a study in which they looked at militaries like yours in Britain, who has had open transgender service for quite some time. And after all of that study, it was one of the most exhaustive studies ever done to look at a people group in the military. What they determined after a year was that there was a minimal impact to readiness, and that it was negated by the quality of soldiers that we have the opportunity to retain when we knock this barrier down.
I suppose part of the issue is the medical situation and the ongoing treatment that people may have to take. That's a consideration, isn't it?
I would be remiss if I decided to speak on the priorities in Washington, D.C. I can tell you that my priority is service to my country and being able to continue to represent this country and the transgender community. I know dozens and dozens of service members who their main concern is focusing on the freedom of our country and continuing to provide that freedom.
And your own case does prove that actually people are already serving and they are transgender. Perhaps they haven't transitioned, but they are having the same feelings, and nobody can really know how many people that may affect.
It's something that I think people look at, and there may be a lack of understanding in exactly how that affects a person. For the most part, when you think of a person who's transgender and you see them to come to work every day, maybe you think that there are a lot of medical concerns and that it's going to take away from their job. But for me personally, this hasn't had an impact on my readiness. It hasn't stopped me from being able to do my job and go and serve with my peers in the field. I think that there is a lack of understanding and conversations that need to happen so that people can get to know transgender people and understand that we are people, we are ready to serve, and we are able to serve, and we are proud to serve.
Last year, candidate Donald Trump tweeted, "Thank you to the LGBT community. I will fight for you while Hillary brings in more people that will threaten your freedoms and beliefs." Your response today?
Washington, D.C. seems like a world away from me. But when I get up in the morning, I put on my boots, I lace them up, and I get ready to go to work, my focus is on being a supportive member of my team. And the team that I work with, the brothers and sisters in arms that I work with, are there to support me. They're not concerned about whether I'm transgender or cisgender, whether I'm a man or a woman. In the military, we focus on job performance, and that's the only thing that matters, is how well you can do your job.
This seems to have taken the Pentagon by surprise, this tweeted announcement yesterday that affects the lives of so many thousands of people. James Mattis, the defense secretary, was on vacation. The Times reports he learned of this the day before, but he had announced a month ago that he was doing a 6-month investigation to decide on the status of transgender people in the military. What is your sense of what the leadership feels about this? Has it changed under the Trump administration, from the highest levels to, well, where you are on your base?
You know, every time I went to Afghanistan, I was transgender. I may not have come out yet, but I was transgender and I knew who I was. Every time I jumped out of an airplane, I was a transgender person. Every time I've laced up my boots and come to work, I've been this person. But more importantly, I've been a soldier. And I've shown up ready to work and do my job. And you're absolutely right that shows that here we are, we've been here, we are here, and we would like to remain here.
And you talk about your combat experience. I mean, you served 3 times, I think, 3 combat tours in Afghanistan for your country, and no doubt lost friends, or at least saw quite a lot of the most distressing aspect of that sort of job there. How do you feel, as somebody who's been prepared to put your life on the line, to hear comments like this coming from your commander-in-chief?
Well, I woke up to this news this morning because of the time zones. I woke up kind of in a state of shock and disbelief. After having served for as long as I have and served openly for the last 2 years, this came as a bit of a start.
And how do you feel about it?
When I woke up yesterday morning, I woke up to the news, and I woke up very much in a state of shock. I came out as transgender in January of 2015. After sharing this information with my family and receiving overwhelming support, I decided that it was time to move forward and that I wanted to live an authentic life. And I laced up my boots, and just like any other day, I went to work. So the next people I decided it was important to come out to was my leadership in the military. I sat down with them and I shared that I was transgender and what this meant. At the time, the policy did not support transgender service, but my leadership knew the difference between what is allowed and what is right, and they wanted to support me in any way they could. So they supported me while adhering to policy, and shortly thereafter, transgender integration began to happen, and I was accepted by the military. In the military, we believe that we're leaders. We've led this nation in so many things. We've led the nation in the integration of erectile dysfunction medication. So I have friends who are very concerned about the possibility of losing benefits, but more importantly, we're concerned about the possibility of losing our ability to meet a transgender service member. This is a person who maybe hasn't had a chance to get to know service members from different ethnicities, different religions. We've done gender integration, we've integrated the LGBT community, and last year we started the greatest gender integration to happen in our military. But to be honest with you, I have work to do. I'm a soldier, and I have other soldiers that I need to get to know. We're going to integrate transgender people into the military and breaking down the transgender barrier. We are leaders in the military, and they did the most exhaustive study on a people group that the military has ever done. This was a detailed study that took a year to complete, and then the Secretary of Defense decided to give a further 6 months just to make sure that we're being thorough. Here in the military, we don't do anything quickly because we want to ensure that we're doing things right. Just simply that we're people and we're soldiers, and we are people that don't see service members from different ethnicities. What I think to myself is this is a person who hasn't had an opportunity yet to meet a transgender service member. This is a person who maybe hasn't had a chance to get to know those of us who are serving in this uniform.
So, Staff Sergeant Patricia King, you're the first infantry member to reveal that you're transgender. You've served in the Army for 18 years, including 3 active combat deployments to Afghanistan. Can you tell us your personal story? Did you transition in the military?
Yes, I did. If I was told today that some of my medical benefits could fall to the wayside, but I would be able to continue to serve the Commission Rand Corporation, and that's where my place is.
Staff Sergeant Patricia King, I want to thank you for being with us. First infantry member to reveal that she is transgender.
And to understand how that would play out for people, we're going to talk to Jordan Blisk. He's a former senior airman with the U.S. Air Force Reserves. He served from 2011 to 2015. He's also a trans man, meaning he was assigned female at birth. He enlisted in the military when he was 17 years old, and he says being in the military actually helped him figure out his gender identity.
That was the first time in my life that I was really exposed outside of the area that I grew up in. The military gave me a way outside of the world that I knew, and throughout that experience, and especially given the opportunity to perform, to be able to express myself in ways that I had really never been able to in the past, it really started to bring out parts of me that I had kind of known were there, but didn't really have the words for. I started realizing that, hey, my sexuality is this, but that doesn't mean anything as far as who I am. So it definitely caused a lot of problems in my personal life, a lot of stress.
And then last year, President Obama's Defense Secretary Ash Carter lifted the ban on transgender service members. You were in active service at that time, but how did that feel when you heard about it?
It felt great. It felt good to know at that point that, the military, who is the largest employer of transgender people in the entire world, the U.S. military is, to know that they were making steps towards being affirming towards people like me, it felt amazing. And so now to feel, this tension right with what we're going through right now, it's very scary, and it definitely sends the opposite message of hope that I felt a year ago.
We don't have all the details yet on what President Trump is proposing to do, but it sounds like he essentially wants to reinstate the ban on transgender service members. I mean, knowing what you know about your own experience when there was such a ban in place, what consequences do you think that would have for trans men and women now?
I think it's absolutely devastating. I know a lot of people, very good soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, who have dedicated their lives to the military and to protecting the United States, and for them to lose their career, to lose their family, to lose their support system, and to lose their entire world, I mean, that's unthinkable to me, especially when they've done nothing wrong. And so I think if we're talking about potentially trying to go after troops that are currently serving, that's going to devastate them from a career perspective, from a family perspective, from a financial perspective, from every single way, because the military is everything to you.
Joseph Dunford
is reacting to President Trump's tweet that announced the pro-LGBT policy approved during the Obama administration would be overturned.
I was told by officials yesterday at the Pentagon that everyone was caught, quote, flat-footed by these tweets by the president, who basically said,
after consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military.
People said they were completely caught by surprise. They were concerned by this, and basically everyone was looking at each other and saying, what does this mean? No one had any idea what this meant.
Like that, this was a discussion. The Pentagon was looking into how to recruit transgender service members, and lawmakers on Capitol Hill were looking at funding for medical care for transgender members, but nobody was questioning about this. I'm sorry, and that you never discussed.
Well, the White House says it is prepared to work out details of a decision to overturn an Obama-era policy that allowed transgender people to serve in the U.S. military, but the recently appointed spokeswoman for President Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, declined to say today whether a policy had actually been formulated. Earlier today, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff announced the Defense Department had not received direction on the new policy the president announced yesterday on Twitter. And so for now, that policy allowing transgender people to serve in the U.S. military remains unchanged.
And Kate, before we let you go, you had mentioned that you will sue that you are preparing to do that. Are there particular cases that you're preparing now? Is it still kind of in the formative stages, or are there potential litigants that NCLR is preparing to defend?
There are litigants that we have and that we've spoken to. The law is very clear already that Title VII, which prohibits discrimination based on sex, includes gender identity and sexual orientation.
Gender is in your head and sex is between your legs. I'm a transgender woman.
And to hear more about that, we're now joined by Tam. First to you. This sounds like a 180-degree reversal from the direction the military services have been taking. What more do we know about Trump's decision?
I was absolutely shocked. We had not anticipated this whatsoever, and I think it's just another example of how this president is just waking up each morning and just shooting off tweets left, right, and center. But what is incredibly disruptive to our country to be living in this state of affairs.
And Dean Spade, talk about your response yesterday when you read what President Trump said.
There was no press release, no briefing from administration policy experts, no fact sheet. It was literally just 3 tweets sent at 9 a.m. And in his statement on Twitter, President Trump said that the military must be focused on victory and, quote, cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail.
There will be no change to current policy until the president's direction is received by the Secretary of Defense. House Speaker Paul Ryan on Capitol Hill today said he's reserving judgment.
Hello everyone and Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. Today is the Trans Visibility Day.
Trump posted a series of tweets yesterday about banning transgender people from the military, which seems to have preempted a formal Defense Department review of current policy.
Look, I think sometimes you have to make decisions, and once he made a decision, he didn't feel it was necessary to hold that decision, and they're going to work together with the Department of Defense to lawfully implement it.
Phil Ewing, we heard Tam make reference to the claim of tremendous medical cost and disruption posed by transgender individuals in the service. What backs up that statement? Do you know that?
Here's a little about what we know for the background there. The Rain Corporation did a study over the past few years as the Obama administration, before this current one, began relaxing personnel policies in the force. And it estimated that there were about 6,300 transgender troops across the active reserve and National Guard components. That's out of a total force of about 1.3 million.
Saying, look, these are people who are serving bravely, openly in the military, something, of course, you never did, and we should be welcoming them and protecting them. So I do think that
there are people who are sacrificing their bodies, and the more that we can do to care for them so that their minds and bodies and spirits are whole and healthy, the stronger our military will be.
Also there, Travis Smith, a gay veteran who spent 8 years in the Navy.
From serving myself in the military with multiple different sexuality people, I've never seen any burden to the military or how it affected their, hope of service. So I just disagree 100%.
Of course, the president's announcement has its supporters too. Retired Air Force veteran Larry Kane, who lives in San Diego, says Trump did the right thing.
And the healthcare cost associated with that population is about $8 million per year. That's in the context of a defense budget that's more than $600 billion a year. But people who have taken this position, which now includes the president, have said they believe every dollar spent by the Defense Department should go toward military effectiveness, towards guns and bullets and so forth, and that appears to be where he is now on this issue.
The president referred to consultation with my generals and military experts. What did the Defense Department say about that?
Well, in a word, nothing. Defense officials there were completely unprepared for the statement this morning. They very quickly referred all questions by our colleagues to the White House. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is actually on vacation this week. The White House said today that he was notified yesterday about this, but people in the Pentagon world were not expecting much news today. So we haven't really heard much more from the Pentagon beyond its policy that had already been in place about this before.
Phil, if this is new policy, what's the policy that's in place now?
You're there to kill and break things.
And I'll let Phil get into those concerns that the president raised. But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders insisted in the briefing today that the White House did consult with the military in making this decision. But that said, she couldn't answer the question of what it would mean for the estimated 6,000 or so transgender people currently serving in the U.S. military.
I will need to tell my commander back in Altus that, look, I am transgender. There's not a lot of people that know that I'm transgender. It's very much on a need-to-know basis. Currently in Afghanistan, there's only a handful, and those people are of higher rank. And then, of course, the people that I came here with from my home station.
How often do you give yourself a shot?
So it's every Friday. When the other guys ask me what being transgender means, I basically say that it's just being assigned female at birth. Your mind does not come in alignment with your body. You're doing it every week for over 3 years. You just kind of get used to it. What I like about this deployment is I can be my authentic self. I'm just another guy. Whereas back home, I'm still seen as female. I go by female ranks and standards. Here in Afghanistan, a war zone, it's like a vacation to me because I can be myself in such an austere environment. I stand to lose everything. I stand to lose my career, my future, my foundation. It takes away the service that I've done, and I feel very proudly to have accomplished. It takes all that away.
And we don't need time out to, I'm having a hormone disorder now, I need time out. The cohesion isn't there.
Kane, who served in Vietnam, says he doesn't much care if transgender personnel work office jobs as long as they're kept off the battlefield.
And in the clip you're about to hear, there's a question posed by CBS's Major Garrett.
When the president made the decision yesterday, the Secretary of Defense was immediately informed, as were the rest of the national security team that had been part of this ongoing conversation.
But you can't answer the question of what's going to happen to transgenders who are in the military now. Shouldn't you have been able to answer that basic question? Well, the policy of this magnitude?
It just doesn't work.
Studies by the RAND Corporation found that integrating transgender troops into the military would have minimal financial costs and little impact on readiness. Before he retired 2 years ago, San Franciscan William Reed spent 33 years in the Army and Air Force. He thinks the president's announcement was meant to distract attention from other issues like the Russia investigation. And he says he doesn't trust Trump's judgment on military issues.
Of course, I was, similar to you, and I'm very concerned about, in general, the kind of parody presidency we seem to be having, the use of Twitter. It's all concerning. I think that, in particular, Trump's assertions about trans healthcare are very, counterfactual and kind of feed into some typical transphobic stereotypes that exist widely, unfortunately.
Fiona Johnson, can you talk about what exactly this would mean? Again, I put this to Patricia King. Does this mean the military will go from base to base, barracks to barracks, and take out the thousands of people who are serving in the military and toss them out?
Well, the military permits transgender troops to serve openly today, but it's been reviewing how it was going to begin recruiting them from the outside. When this policy changed before, that affected people who were in the force currently. Now it's going to be studying what it will mean to bring in people new from the outside. So we don't know whether Trump's statement will affirm that, delay the study that's taking place before they can begin to join, or whether this is a broad new policy that would involve actually kicking people out who are now serving in the military. Under Obama, the military lowered many of its historic boundaries to service by populations that historically couldn't. Women in many combat jobs, gays and lesbians serving openly, and this transgender policy was the last link in the chain. And according to studies by RAND and by the military itself, these changes to the makeup of the force have taken place mostly without disruption.
Tam Keith at the White House, how much of this is actually about military service, and how much of this is about changing the subject in Washington?
So we believe these tweets violate the law if they were to become law. It's clear that there was no consultation with military leaders or congressional leaders, so it's unclear exactly what's going to happen. But we will be prepared to go, and I'm sure we won't be the only organization that would challenge what would truly be an assault on transgender service members if there is an attempt to ban them from service.
But we have 32 states in the United States where you can still legally discriminate against people in the LGBT community.
Is that right now we don't know what it is going to mean. And I think when we're living in this environment of uncertainty, it's very difficult and challenging place for service members now. As you know, the numbers are more than 15,000 who are just going to keep going to work every single day. And Patricia King is an exemplary example of that.
Especially for someone who never served before and doesn't understand in the military how you depend on your brother and your sister next to you, and regardless of what that person is, be black, white, Jewish, whatever.
The president's early morning tweets leave many questions unanswered, especially for transgender troops currently on active duty. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says all service members will continue to be treated with respect.
You can deny them housing, you can deny them benefits, you can deny them doctors. They just don't have any rights.
Transgender veterans like Teresa Sparks from San Francisco are worried. Sparks spent 8 years in the Navy, including 3 years in Vietnam. Now she wonders how the new policy could affect people like her.
Is he going to cut off my benefits because I was a veteran and served? Will I no longer be able to buy a house under the GI Bill? Will I no longer get education benefits? Will I no longer get health care?
Questions like those did not seem to be taken into consideration when the president announced his policy change via Twitter. Those directly affected by it are waiting for answers.
I mean, I think that's a really concerning framework. A lot of my broader work has been about access to trans people's healthcare needs in Medicaid, access to trans people's healthcare needs in their other, job healthcare plans. And so this is kind of a classic political move. Again, I think trans people are used often in this way politically. So a lot of people on the right will use trans people as kind of a moral issue and try to stir up fear and concern, which is often focused on our healthcare needs because there's a lot of stereotyping and misunderstanding there. So I think we see that happening. We see people on the right and in the backdrop of this story wanting to stir up their constituents and frame themselves as morally right and distract from the fact that they're actually politicians representing the 1%, not their constituents. And on the other side, we see people on the left, which includes, I think institutions like the U.S. military, but often also politicians who want to make themselves look progressive by saying something bland about trans equality or trans people serving in the military. But when it comes down to the main issues facing trans people in the United States, like violent policing, extreme rates of incarceration, poverty, on all the policy issues that most matter to trans people's survival, they're not there. So I think it's interesting to notice how both the left and the right uses the figure of the controversial figure of trans people to their political expediency, but without actually getting into what trans people really need most and what would for the life and well-being of the most trans people.
Kristen Beck, the 20-year veteran of the Navy SEALs, including SEAL Team 6, which killed Osama bin Laden, challenged President Trump Wednesday over the ban. She's the first transgender Navy SEAL. She told the news site Business Insider, "Let's meet face to face and you tell me I'm not worthy. Transgender doesn't matter. Do your service," she said. Fiona Dawson.
I commend Kristen Beck for coming out and challenging Donald Trump in this way. I also would implore Donald Trump to actually meet the service members that are essentially under his leadership. Numbers more than 15,000, and I would love for him to meet Lonely Island and Whale Island, who were in a short film that he showed a clip of, and many of the other service members in groups like Sparta. And of course, we have our feature documentary coming out in January that is also going to feature more trans service members who have the courage to go inside the Pentagon and share their personal stories with top brass officials over the last couple of years. So these service members have been putting themselves on the line for years and years and years. And I think it's completely disrespectful for Donald Trump to fly off these tweets yesterday without truly knowing who these people are. And I think that he should meet trans service members.
And so people also said that religion was the reason why white people and black people shouldn't be able to get married. Or people said religion is the reason why women need to be treated as inferior to men.
Or why black people should remain enslaved.
Or why black people should remain enslaved.
In those 32 cities. You can, in those 32 cities, actually get for proper identification, which is very important for trans people. You can't even get your birth certificate changed to, let's say, male to female, from an M to an F.
What we have to come to understand is that yesterday was a series of tweets. A tweet is not an executive order, and nor is it changing policy within the Department of Defense. This is something that was thoroughly examined and was deemed that there was no scientific reason why trans people can't serve.
Well, that is hard to know for sure, but what we can say is that the issue of the military paying for gender reassignment surgeries has become a sticking point in legislation over on Capitol Hill to appropriate and authorize money for the military.
This is also unprecedented. Typically, a president will allow military leaders to make these types of decisions. This is inappropriate for President Trump to come and try and tell military leaders how to lead their troops.
And that this was far beyond leaders' expectations and caught many by surprise. And in terms of context, this could cause a massive culture war.
Except you never see the trans men because they're they blend into society so well. Testosterone is a very powerful drug. It's harder to go from male to female.
And so my question is sort of, how can we have a more complex conversation about the fact that yes, trans people are poor and underemployed and need real jobs?
And realize that this is a place where they fulfill their hopes and their dreams, and they just happen to be transgender.
So the notion that religion is used as a rationale for a position that you may disagree with, I agree, can make persuasion harder.
But the option should not be one of the most dangerous and exploitative jobs possible. That's not actually, I think, what a trans collective liberation is actually about.
Fiona Dawson, your response.
I have great respect of Professor Say. I know we do have some common ground, however we have some significant differences on how we view this issue. Through my experience of coming to know many trans service members and just listening to their personal stories, I realise that the military is a very important employer and a way of them providing for their families, being able to access healthcare, be able to access housing, be able to live the life that most Americans want to live. You know, trans people are twice as likely to be unemployed and yet twice as likely to join the military. The people that I know have not been coerced or forced to join the military, and this is a job that they want to do. And I think Patricia King was a wonderful example just now. She's now served for 18 years.
Thank you.
Staff Sergeant Patricia King, your thoughts?
I just want you to know that no matter what, service members are going to continue to serve and do their job as long as they're in the military, and that is the same for transgender service members as anybody else. We will continue to serve honorably and with pride because that's why we enlisted in the military in the first place.
And you join the military for the same reasons that cisgender people join the military. And the debate about imperialism and whether we should have the military should be taken outside of the debate about whether trans people should be able to serve or not. And that is the issue we need to focus on, is the equal opportunity in this country to be able to serve in the military. I agree you should not have to join the military to access these things, but the reality is that people are. My main mission is building LGBTQ equality in this country. And when you see a Harris poll that says that 78% of Americans think that being a military officer is a prestigious job, 64% of Americans would encourage their child to become a military officer, you realise that our trans service members are a way of relating to cisgender Americans who don't know that they might know a trans person. It's a way of people coming to understand who trans people are. And I feel that the military is a place that can unite people.
One of the best ways to try to persuade people is to get someone they already trust to talk to them about an issue. And I would say that, including on religion, that is probably an issue there too. Deeply religious people do not have uniform views. And so one way, if you're trying to persuade someone who's citing religion, is to think about, there may well be someone who cites religion on the opposite end of this same issue.
And so I had no idea what the response was going to be. If I did this, I mean, at the time I was getting destroyed by the tabloids, just destroyed by them. I had 2 or 3 cars following me everywhere I went. I couldn't move without some paparazzi taking a picture, and then, you know, some rag magazine all over the world writing some stupid article. You don't, it's not like, no, not even close. It's a television show. That's what I do for a living. I've been doing it for 40 years. It's like, no, I don't go there. It's not like I do a television show because I'm asking for paparazzis and all that. I did that show. Why? Because, hey, I enjoy fun, I enjoy working, but more importantly, I enjoy working with my children. I thought it was a great opportunity for my kids. And you know what? It was. You look at my children, they took that show and used that show and built up a great business for themselves. And I'm very proud of them for doing that, you know. And so, yeah, that would have been all. What about me? You know, I stayed in the background as much as I could. Yeah, did I earn a nice paycheck doing it? Absolutely. And, but, you know, I had to work and do something, you know, so it was a great job. But I didn't do that, so I would have paparazzis following me. I'm still a very private person. I literally had to put up walls around my house before I came out. You know, so the paparazzis couldn't take pictures from other hills. You know, I had them chasing me all over. I outraced them. I'd ride my motorcycle and put a helmet on so they didn't know who was driving. I mean, I did everything for years just to get away from these guys. What crime?
You know? Why is that? What is that? What went through your head?
The turmoil. Oh, well, first of all, I did everything right. Everything right. So, yeah, that's the tough side of this issue. Also, online bullying, which is obviously very difficult. That's a tough one. And that's tough to take.
No! Oh, did you really think he was gonna? I mean, really? Did you really think you were gonna get a phone call?
Honestly, I was hoping, you know, hey, Donald, come on. I called him out. Let's go. Let's get it going. But the bottom line is, it's Donald Trump. He signed it, okay?
And he hired you.
I know people that were in the room and talked to the people that were in the room. And so the bottom line is, it is Donald Trump and it's his administration. Bottom line, Trump is the man, he's the president. He said he wanted to play golf with me, and I thought anything that goes on in that administration, it's bottom line. After he did the Title IX thing was just an absolute disaster for me.
I'd like to read very briefly. The poem says,
I wish you would.
Sure, the poem says, my mirror does not define me. Not the stranger that looks back at me, not the smooth face that belongs to someone else, not the eyes that gleam with sadness when I look for him and can only see her.
Bottom line.
That's Caitlyn Jenner. Her new book is called The Secrets of My Life. She will be signing copies at the 6th and I Historic Synagogue in Washington. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. This is a disaster. Bottom line, it was my pleasure.
Charles Clymer, Army veteran of 6 years. Before we go, your final thoughts? I just want to say to Patricia and every other transgender American serving openly right now, we got your backs. And we're just not going to let this happen without a fight.
Thank you.
I just wanted to call and tell you that there's a program, Democracy Now!, that's playing right now, and featuring Staff Sergeant Patricia King, and she is speaking with such class, and I just am really proud to have her and all the transgender people serving for our country, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think that it's a non-issue about transgenders being in the military. When I was in the military, I worked alongside gay people, and any one of them, I would put my life in their hands. And I mean, I wasn't in infantry, but I mean, I had many gay people. And there's no difference. I mean, you know, we were all, like I said, highly trained. We were tested. It's a non-issue. I mean, there's far more issues that need to be addressed in our country than that. It's just a non-issue.
As far as the transgender in the military, to me, once a person transported
into the sex that they were born to, they're that person.
Thank you.
So it shouldn't be, it's a non-issue. If they trans into a man from a woman, then they're a man. So they're going into the military as a man. That's how I see that.
Thank you.
I don't know when they talk about gender identity, if anybody's familiar with the process of hermaphroditism.
Thank you.
But there was a lot of studies done.
That's when you're born with really kind of an indeterminate sex. Is that the?
You're born with both sexes.
Both sexes.
You have both anatomical conditions.
Thank you.
And so that's part of nature.
Yes, and there was a study done that shows that people are not boy or girl, but they're on a spectrum from boyness to girlness.
Thank you.
And so how does that? How
the body develops?
All right. So you're pointing to the caller who said that you're born either a man or a woman.
You're born a person, and you have a certain genetic constitution of your physical sexuality, which is in development ranges from highly male to highly female. Most people fall in a statistical element over one end or the other.
He sounds more like a president of a private company than the president of the United States. He doesn't recognize anything that would, can't find all the big words that would take to anything to pull his collar, anything to check him down. He doesn't recognize it. You heard the latest from Washington, from the White House today about him not allowing transgender people.
Yeah, that's how we started the show. And NPR News reported it too, very well at the top of the hour.
Right. And what I would like to say is, I would say some other things, and that would raise a firestorm, but I'm not trying to raise a firestorm. Why didn't we vote for Barack Obama? We voted for Barack Obama because George Bush Jr. in a clown car with your 401k, my 401k, whatever stocks we may have, whatever other options in that clown car, and was careening off of a cliff.
Good morning there, Circle of Tampa Bay. I want to say we ought to make a transsexual special forces. I'm just trying to make it a win-win situation. You got the trans that are upset, you got the straight people that are upset. I was in the Navy. But anyways, that's my question. Why wouldn't he just make them unified in a certain aspect of our Defense Department and give them a special name?
All right.
Well, I'm a combat veteran as well. I was Army. I was a leader in combat. I did 4 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. And I can say that transgender is a big deal. And not only am I a veteran, but I'm also a Christian, so I believe that God created us to be man or woman at birth. We don't choose our gender. So to say that transgender doesn't have an effect, it does. But I was infantry. We didn't have anything other than each other in the infantry.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible, though, that, for whatever reason, that somebody's born and they just feel they're in the wrong body. As they grow up, they just feel that something's not right, and that when they make the gender switch, that they feel much more comfortable and much at ease. Do you think that that's possible?
No.
Transgender individuals banned from the U.S. military in any capacity. That same day, the Department of Justice filed a court brief. Sexual orientation not protected, they said, under the Civil Rights Act. And there was more. Donald Trump was relatively warm on the campaign trail toward gay rights. What's happening? This hour on Point Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions, and LGBTQ Americans Now. You can join us on air or online, where this conversation is always on. What do you think about Trump's ban on transgender soldiers, the Department of Justice take on civil rights? Last summer, here was Donald Trump. This was his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention. Of course, this had come in the wake of the killing of 49 people at the gay
will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of the hateful foreign ideology.
Last week, a tweet comes out, transgender out of the U.S. military. Here talking with MSNBC on Capitol Hill was Utah Republican Senator Orrin Hatch. Well, here he was.
Why should we hold that against them? They're human beings. And many of them are extremely talented human beings. So, we should be open to everybody.
And from the American Civil Liberties Union on Thursday, James Essex said that LGBT community feels targeted. Here he was after the Trump tweet.
I think the community feels very much under attack and under siege by this administration. In a very real sense, it's the administration's anti-LGBT day.
I wish I could see something very coherent, but I'm afraid I don't. I think that the transgender ban seems to be a response by Trump to the possibility that his spending bill would not get through the Congress without the removal from it of the budget for spending on medical care for transgender troops, and impulsively just declared by Twitter that therefore all transgender troops should be banned in any capacity, which was far more, in fact, than anybody on the religious right was even asking. The Justice Department case is really about whether sexual orientation is protected under sex discrimination.
No. No. No.
This was the end of June last summer. This was then Defense Secretary Ash Carter announcing that what had been a ban on transgender troops will be lifted. Carter, his team had studied the issue for a year. He said that although they were relatively few in number, transgender soldiers, said the Defense Secretary, were talented and trained Americans who served their country with honor and distinction.
Army Chief of Staff General Milley recently reminded us of this when he said, and I quote him, "The United States Army is open to all Americans who meet the standard, regardless of who they are. Embedded within our Constitution is that very principle, that all Americans are free and equal. And we as an Army are sworn to protect and defend that very principle. And we are sworn to even die for that principle. So if we in uniform are willing to die for that principle, then we in uniform should be willing to live by that principle."
That was last year. Here's how she responded to one reporter's question about the president's tweet.
Does that mean that those that are now in theater, that are now deployed to Afghanistan, for example, will have to be immediately sent home and
Again,
discharged?
implementation policy is going to be something that the White House and the Department of Defense have to work together to lawfully determine. And I would imagine the Department of Defense will be the lead on that and be posted as that takes place.
I do have a little doubt. But the trouble with having a commander-in-chief who is completely unfit to be commander-in-chief is that you can quarantine him to some extent. I mean, you can keep going in some respects without him being involved. But when he does something like this, even though it is outside the normal channels, it is certainly irrelevant to the chain of command. It's just simply his mouthing off in public. Nonetheless, as a human being, as an individual person, he is the commander-in-chief, and he just gave a directive. My sense is that the military is scrambling at this point to figure out what to do. I suspect that there will be considerable resistance to this, that they will maybe postpone something until this review continues, but I don't know what's going on in the inner workings of Jim Mattis's mind at this point. I mean, he was on vacation last week, he's back now. So we'll see what happens. It would be quite remarkable if the U.S. military resisted such a thing and went about its business in due course. On the other hand, it is quite remarkable that a president was behaving this way. So we are in completely uncharted territory here, because we have someone in the White House who simply should not be in the White House.
Army Chief of Staff General Mark Milley said Thursday in an appearance at the National Press Club that the military will work through the new guidance from President Trump when he gets a formal directive from the White House. through proper channels, and that in the meantime, all soldiers will continue to be treated with respect.
It should be no surprise to anyone, but the entire force, the entire chain of command, will, always has, will today, and will tomorrow, and always should treat every single soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guard with dignity and respect for their service in the cloth of our nation, bar none.
Bar none, he says. Their former Army Secretary Eric Fanning, the first openly gay leader of any U.S. military branch, described the way transgender service members are likely feeling in the wake of the president's tweet. Here he was last week on NBC.
If you're a transgender service member anywhere in the world, you were already nervous by what you were hearing, and now you're probably very confused and very frightened about what the future holds for you when your commander-in-chief tweets a message like this, basically dismissing your service.
Former Army Secretary there, I mean, you're a kind of legal defenders here. Do you see room to come in here legally and wrangle with this?
Well, the president has really messed with the wrong people here by picking on volunteers who are serving their country honorably. The president has really attacked not just transgender members of the military, but trans and LGBT people everywhere. And Lambda Legal has been fighting for open military service for LGBT people since the 1970s. And with OutServe and SLDN, our partners that represent military service members and veterans, we will sue and we will win.
In what kind of form would you sue over this? And what's the track record on this front?
Well, it was a long fight. The end of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy that barred open military service by lesbian, gay, and bisexual members of the military took a very long time and was a combination of litigation and action by Congress, and ultimately implemented by the Defense Department. The Defense Department has been implementing open military service for transgender service members without incident and with an enormous amount of success. And I think what's really notable about what happened last week is that the public visibility for transgender adults who are serving their country honorably was suddenly everywhere, and that people could see how accomplished, how skilled, how proud trans people are to the majority of the American public. By a Reuters poll out today, says 58% of people support open service by trans people in the military. And I think that's really, I mean, that to the extent that the president thought that he could pick on LGBT people, and particularly on trans people, and that no one would care, he clearly miscalculated.
Is this something that's ultimately decided at the ballot box? Does this go back to politics?
Well, I think we'd be found with the ban on open to gay people in the military. In the end, you have to go to Congress. And this is, the commander-in-chief has enormous power. This is the thing that makes it problematic. He has enormous power over the troops he commands and what he does. But there are other issues here, such as whether the executive branch can simply bar an entire class of people for no actual rational reasons.
Well, first I think it's important to frame what this is about, right? This is about jobs. This is about if you are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, can you get a job and can you keep a job? And are you protected at work from discrimination based on your sexual orientation or your gender identity? And what happened here is that the Justice Department went out of its way to enter into a case where their opinion was not required by the court to say that they oppose a reading of the Civil Rights Act that protects the jobs of LGBT people. And where we are right now is looking at how do you get to the Supreme Court taking up this issue, because that's really what needs to happen next.
Legally, where do you think the legal system might come down on this, John?
Well, it's very hard to say, because I think it is certainly true that we have seen a very difficult challenge for these groups, but ultimately we've seen great success. Obergefell in 2015 on same-sex marriage was a historic moment that came from hard litigation and hard work, both legally and politically.
What about, I just want to jump in here, Tom. Can I jump in to say that I think it's really important to note that we are winning cases on behalf of transgender people that apply intermediate scrutiny, which is what you get for sex differences under the law, right, which is heightened scrutiny, and the government does have to meet a much higher burden in showing that there was a reason that they're treating people differently based on sex. So we've won those cases in employment contexts, we've won those cases in school contexts, and applying the Civil Rights Act clearly to sex discrimination when transgender people are harmed.
What's the evolution here? And if we end up in a legal fight over this and it goes to the Supreme Court, do you see this on track to be affirmed as part of what the Civil Rights Act covers?
I have to tell you, I think that this could go very easily either way, because it's not just simply a question of what should be decided, but who should decide it.
Sure. I think what we have right now is a circuit split. We have the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has already sat as a full court and said resoundingly that this is a form of sex discrimination. The Second Circuit is about to take up this case as a full court, which they do, I think it's worth noting, extremely rarely. This will be the third time since 2011 that the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has sat together to discuss anything. So it really is
a big deal. They're treating it with weight.
The law refers to sex and whether it can be extended to sexual orientation. There are many judges who are entirely in favor of equal protection, entirely in favor with the result of extending this to sexual orientation.
Because it really is time for the Supreme Court to take up this issue. There's a significant circuit split, and people's lives and livelihoods are at stake.
The truth is, what Richard said is that they have lost the culture of war. If they've lost it, how are we under siege? They feel under siege right now. They feel under siege because their entire world has been turned upside down. To argue that we should bypass the political process, but we have the stronger arguments, and do this through the courts, I think is to do an end run around the democratic process.